the coffee place, the dog walking coffee place. There's a chap there that does driftwood and things like that. Have you been down there?
Oh yeah. Where's that?
Just on the bridge at Crockty. There's a little cafe there.
the
On the
saucy
right-hand
hand.
side.
Yes.
Oh, I know where you mean. Yes,
But
I
there's
haven't.
lots of art and crafty people down
is
there.
there?
Oh
Been for a
yeah,
long,
it's
long
full
time.
of well, it's full of bric-a-brac and sort of tea kind.
It's the kind of place that you can occasionally find things
An odd
that
thing that you didn't really
I've been to, I haven't been to Lockbourne Gallery for ages actually.
Aztec,
A lovely
long,
position, but it's very
pottery
lots
sculpture,
of little
which is a hole at the back.
seems to
So
get
George went walking from Alan Rouvier.
Oh yeah, Elaine.
Elaine.
Rouvier.
I'm not
He
putting
said-
paddleboarder
he says
in it.
He didn't know what to expect. 'Cause
Oh,
he went
good.
walk there before and I never went and we couldn't go.
No.
And he says, when we came
But I haven't got
back in
any
the car, I'll get a cup of
pencils with me, so I won't be
Come
doing
back.
it.
And he says, "Try it." He says,
No,
very
I don't
strange.
think he really adds anything to the picture, to be honest.
It felt so trouble.
I don't,
And it's not something he would
not
say.
something I would have. So it's going to be all pinks and oranges and yellows today.
I've not been yet because it's
Without him. Now you can just about make out the purpley pink background
From Wednesday on.
in the mountains.
Wednesday on.
So I've got a few pinks in here, so I'll probably be using
Coffee in the breast.
just very subtle, like me,
George said it was lovely.
soft and subtle.
Soft and squishy.
So subtle.
Subtle.
Right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to level where my waterline is. So if I line up the edge of my paper to the edge of that paper, that'll give me a straight edge.
Or maybe a ruler.
Or a ruler if you've got one. But with this one, you see, you can go like that.
True.
Like that, and then I can just get that ready. The only thing is, if I'm a bit heavy-handed and I'm a bit scribbly, I'll go underneath. I'll just soften that to start with. Now, we got Pauline on Friday, but we haven't got Pauline today. She messaged me yesterday while I was in transit. Look at that straightish edge.
Ta-da.
Yes.
instant.
Just easier, using what you've got. So I'll go with this dusky pink. I was really in two minds what colour to do this today, and then I thought maybe a grey paper, but I'd already said black paper by the time I'd realised that I was going to do grey, so I decided to do black. It'll be fine. Slightly brighter pink, although you can't really tell the difference. I'm having to use a lot of it, but if you notice, I'm really having to resist the urge to blow or shake because I want it to blend. And it'd be a shame to get rid of all of that powder because that's what we need for the blending. It's the same as when you sharpen a colouring pencil or a watercolour pencil or any pencil. The bit you're paying for isn't the wood, is it? It's the thing that's going in the bin. And I just think, oh, I need to harness some of that, I reckon. Let's go with an orange. I'm going to go with that orange. Let's go a little bit there. I was hesitating with the orange because we're using black paper. If your orange is too yellow, it can sometimes look a bit green because of the blue tones in the black. Right. Now I ought to do a white sun. In my head I keep calling it a moon. It's not a moon, it is a sun.
I don't think he'd be out in the moonlight, would he?
Alright, let's draw that like that, just so I know where I can go up to. Yeah, the garden party was rather soggy. We ended up inside that I was performing at on Saturday. Oh, it was ridiculous. that'll do. Right, let me go into the pink and give it a blend. Now the camera will probably make the colours more vibrant than it is, just because that's what it does. And I think with chalk content, the camera seems to really pick up. With gouache, it does the same. It sort of the white chalk in everything must just reflect the light in a different way. I don't know anything about technology, but that's what I imagine, because it doesn't do the same with watercolours or acrylics, but gouache it does, and pastels it does.
Painting always looks best when you can see a picture with an iPhone or gouache.
Yes. Yes. A bit of a blend, but it was nice. Spent time with my uncle and my aunt that I don't see very often.
You were at Banbury?
Yeah, I was in Worcestershire. I was in near Bromsgrove, a little village just out of Bromsgrove, on Saturday night. Because it was the neighbours of my uncle, birthday party, and he went, "Oh, you can stop over." So I had a nice full English. I had a bit of a buffet while I was there, because I got there a bit earlier than I thought I would. So I had some of the buffet, full English, in the morning yesterday, and then I went to visit my sister because it was her birthday this weekend, and she only lives not too far away, and because my brother-in-law's a butcher, I had a nice Sunday roast as well, and board and lodging, so it was a very good weekend, really. Now I've got the orange, I can go with a, do I want to go with a yellow? I'm going to go with a yellow. Around the sun, because there's a bit of a coating now on that paper, so hopefully it'll be okay. Now I'm not rubbing as hard, I'm kind of tapping, and the reason for that is because we've already got quite a bit of layering onto the paper, and if I rub, I'll just end up going and taking layers off. Looks a bit like a weird space scene at the moment, doesn't it? Yeah. Now, I'm not going to do it on the floor. I will get a scrap one of these, because it's new floor, isn't it?
And there's nothing you can do with that dust.
It just goes everywhere. Right, let's see if I can find. Oh, it's kind of purple, isn't it, that?
Kind of.
So if I did a bit of purple, because it's black underneath, the black should show through and darken the purple, in theory. Look at that. I ought to film all of the sounds I make in art class, because it's really big on social media. It's called ASMR. People will film themselves doing anything and just record the sounds of whatever it is, because people find it very relaxing, apparently. ASMR. No. There's like people on there and they whisper and they talk, but they talk very wet-mouthed so you can hear the sound. Now, to me, I can't find anything worse than that. Like, when they talk, you can hear the click. No, I'd rather you not talk. But some people find it very... Doesn't your sister find ASMR soothing? Certain ASMR. Interesting, because psychologist, yeah. But art sounds quite cool, you know, like the sound of a pencil on paper or the mixing of water in a jar. I'm geared to it now because I've seen that many social media videos of ASMR. Cooking ASMR. No, I don't want them to get a life. I need them. We can monetize our Facebook now, so we don't want them to have a life. We need them to sit watching our Facebook videos. That's what we need.
You'd have to do your
Yeah,
things like that.
and like really clank the water jar when I'm mixing. I'm using my putty eraser that's a bit flat like a hamburger.
We don't usually use that. What is it?
Putty rubber.
Oh, I didn't think.
I called it putty eraser.
Yeah, but we're very posh.
Well, the only reason why, we had a very big discussion. We had some students from America once, and when I called it a rubber, they didn't. They were quite shocked. So from then on in, I've tried to call it an eraser for our continental viewers and viewers from across the pond. Oh, Kevin is enjoying being a dad, by the way. I messaged him the other day just to see how he was doing.
All going well over there.
It seems to be, yeah. And they're just on a mini holiday, so didn't chat for long. You see, the more layers you put on, the harder it is to erase, but not impossible. We've had a few inquiries about the group. Potential new people.
What, this group?
Mm. I know. Well, we've lost a few, haven't we?
Well, yes.
They've just disappeared.
Yeah,
Yeah, now Sarah's an interesting one because I know she was looking after a lot of relatives, so she's not sure when she'll get back.
Oh, Christine.
Well, there's Sue and Sandra have never come back, have they? They came back after the pandemic and then...
Yes, it's nice to see
I
them.
know.
Running for ages.
Do you know what? No, I haven't seen Sandra around. Normally I would see her in town.
I used to, when I was coming through here, you lot, I'm going to the gym and see her running around the green area. I haven't seen her for ages.
No. It's funny. But at least we've got 3 new people, haven't we? We've got Linda and Jill and Shelley, although you're not that new now, are you? You've been here a year, over a year, yeah. It'll be your second Christmas, won't it? And you're still here. Third Christmas, gosh. There mustn't be much to do on the Mondays.
Did I?
It does, doesn't it? It's crazy.
They seem to leave when we came. That's ages ago.
Well, I didn't like to say.
Gave me the right equipment and put me right to watercolour paper.
That's right.
Yeah, because Anne, you've been coming for a while, haven't you?
She was just saying she came after me and I thought Anne was here before me.
I think it'd be like 2014,
No.
25th, was it?
Long, have we?
Yeah.
Because I think because we moved here in 2011, and I think it was the following year.
It could well have been because we started the Monday group at Great Bourton when the shop moved to White Lion Walk and we weren't allowed to open on Mondays. So Bernice and Michelle were like, well, let's have an art group in the village on a Monday. So that was 2012, mid-2012. So I think it was September 2012 we started. We did a taster session in summer. Yeah, maybe autumn 2013.
I'm a newbie for the Borton group.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how that hall didn't put me off it for life.
Well, do you know the hall was okay. It served its purpose with all the passive-aggressive notes.
Oh my goodness.
Don't stand, don't put, don't close, keep this on. There was like 27 notices. Every week you'd come, there was a new notice about telling us what we weren't allowed to do. There was thinking about dog poo bin, wasn't there? There was lots of they were obsessed with the dog poo bin. Oh yeah, we were accused of putting dog poo in the dog poo bin because it's for local dogs.
Wasn't it, Paul?
Really?
You know, spoke to Jackie and she said, but we're now doing
I know.
so that's better for me, actually, if anything.
It's hilarious. We had to say, well, we don't actually do, we don't bring dogs here, so the poo isn't us. It's hilarious.
There was a lot of cleaning up, wasn't there? Didn't leave the place very clean.
Oh no, there's several sessions I ended up having to mop the kitchen because it was just like
And the loo and
sticky
things.
and the toilets, yes.
And the coldest place this side of the island.
It was hard. Would you say about half the size of this room or more smaller?
The portable heaters. Not
It's
many.
a bit, maybe a bit smaller than half, but it had radiators on. You wouldn't know.
They were high, weren't they?
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
it make a difference?
It was.
Then we had the portable radio.
Then we had little hot blower heaters, and then.
Fought one another to sit by them.
And pairs of socks to put inside your boots. So
Oh
you keep
my
your feet
goodness.
And it had loads of windows, but it wasn't that bright inside because they were all overgrown with trees from the surrounding area. So it was, and you had to get up about 20 steps to get into the hall. There was, so if you were struggling to walk, it wasn't great.
Can you remember when those steps were icy? That was a
They weren't clever.
a sun.
No, I'm trying not to sort of do too much with it. So if I go with my purple, we like a bit of purple today. I might use, there's a nice lavender. Is there? Yes. Might shove a bit of that on. ASMR, ASMR. I have to like pick the microphone up. There's somebody I know, and she's got like a microphone that's got ears on them, and each ear corresponds to a left speaker and a right speaker, so she'll whisper in one ear, and then she'll move over and she'll whisper in the other, and if you've got headphones on, it sounds like she's talking in your ear. There are some songs like it as well, and I've forgotten what it's called, where if you've got headphones on and you close your eyes, it sounds like the drummer's over there, and then the singer is singing and walking around, and you can almost see him pass by in front of you, because then he's singing over here, but then you can hear him going around the back. It's really quite freaky. I love it. Yeah, there's quite a few groups that do it now, because everybody's just glued with headphones on, so they're trying to make it more interesting for them. There was one years ago about a barber's, and you put your headphones in and close your eyes, and it sounded like you're at the barber's, and you could hear the clippers going on this side of your ear and then on this side. It was unnerving, because I don't like going to the barber's.
Listen to the Wellerman song.
Which song?
Wellerman.
Oh yeah.
Because that one, when they have the fall doing it, you've got headphones on. They're all round you.
But it maybe keeps them off the streets.
Television's like that. There's all kinds of things coming from every corner. He's absolutely obsessed with Sonos.
Right, let's put a bit of pink in. I know. Pinky pink. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this. Ooh. Well, I'm kind of using the reference as a reference because I want wet sand rather than just all water. I think it'll be a bit weird just seeing it, because that's just, we're standing in the sea with this photo, aren't we?
Who's gonna put it in?
Bit of white. I always feel like Tony Hart when I'm doing a pastel picture on camera. I don't know why. So that's saying, and now you need a tissue to dab it together. Be very careful. Oh, he was brilliant, Tony Hart. He was just wonderful. It's got more of an orangey, really weird look. If you look at this, the light is very orange at the back and front, but not. It's white in the middle. Weird. Oh, now. What colour would you say those stripy paler bands are? Because they're not orange, are they?
Sandy colour.
They are a bit sandy. They are. Would that be more of like an ochre with the black? It'll darken it. So yeah, Warwick looked very busy as I drove through yesterday afternoon. My hometown, sadly, I had some time to kill, so I went and parked up and visited my hometown, which is the first time I've been there since I moved here. Made me very sad, because it's horrible. No, Starbridge. I mean, Starbridge was a posh town, really posh, but the high street, about 50% empty. And you've got homeless people camping out in passageways, and really sad, really sad. And it made me realise just how good Banbury is. Even though it doesn't feel like it, it's not until you go somewhere else that you realise just what we actually have got. Because Starbridge is only a small market town, it's only half the size of Banbury, so to have lost that many independents, and they're just, all the frontages look awful as well, you know, it's just really looks tatty. And when I used to work there in retail, it was quite fancy and it was bustling, but I mean it was a Sunday and there's a lot of stuff not open, but all the fancy coffee houses have closed. They've got like a coffee number one like we've got here, and a Costa and a Greggs that have all cropped up, all the convenience foodie stuff. But it was really sad that it was nothing like the town that I grew up working in. Made me glad I moved, actually, because I nearly had a shop in Starbridge before I moved here. I thought, do I pack everything up, or do I just stay there and carry on doing what I'm doing? Why? Well, they moved me here because I work for Paperway. The shop I grew up working in, my boss retired and Paperway took over. And I worked there for a bit, and then I did a lot of work for Dale Aronian schools, and then I came back to work there after Paperway had taken over. And they really had run it down to the ground, and their lease was up. I mean, this building was the oldest it was the original library in the town centre, and it's, I don't know, 200 years old, marble arch, triple fronted, copper window frames, you know, absolutely beautiful attention to detail. The upstairs had been revamped in the 70s, looked awful, but Paperway hadn't done any upkeep in the, I don't know, 15 years they rented the building, and they said, we need to renew the lease, but if we renew the lease, we're then liable for all the decoration and put in all the stuff, and that's going to cost us 20 grand, so we're pulling out of the lease. So you can either be the manager of Banbury, which we're going to reopen, or you haven't got a job. And I'd only just got married, and my wife was teaching on a maternity contract, so she was only guaranteed work for a year. So I thought, oh, you know, I'll move down here. So that's when I ended up moving down here, and then they closed this one down as well after a while. So that's why I opened my little place. There's lots of other stories about Paperway in between, but that'll be for another day. About how they wanted me to take over that shop because I brought a lot of profit to it, because they never sent us any stock. I'd do 30 pages orders on a fax, fax order, 30 pages, and I'd get a shoebox of stock back. Or they'd send random things like teddy bears, and we'd say, well, we don't sell teddy bears. Or they sell really well in Llandudno. Well, that's great, but this is Banbury, and people want art supplies. So what I did is I started teaching the classes, because I was a manager, so I was on salary. I started teaching the classes, but keeping the money for the classes in a separate tin, and then buying art supplies online to restock the shop. And they were like, oh, well, maybe you should take over because you've been really doing a lot to it. In other words, they didn't want the business anymore because of the recession. And I said, oh, you know what, I'll consider that. They gave me a lease agreement, and they said, you'll need a solicitor to sign it, but he'll probably tell you not to sign it. Interesting. So I'd got a copy, and a chap I went to school and college with is a solicitor in my mum's village, so I thought, you know what, I'll take it to Will and see what he says. And he was looking through it, and he was like, Baz, you can't sign it, because they want you to take on their lease without the landlord's knowledge or consent, which would mean that any work that they have done, you would then be liable to put back. And he could come in and go, who are you? Where's Paperway? Get out. So you've got no rights. But in the meantime, while I was considering all of this, they had written to all of the staff, the 4 members of staff, and told them that they'd no longer work for Paperway, that they worked for me. And they'd also written to Cherwell and put the business rates in my name. And I had to ring Cherwell and go, no, that is not true. So they were all very sneaky. They were desperate just to get some money, I think. So that put me off. But interestingly, before all of that, while I was working there, one of the ladies that I knew, one of the other business owners in the town, said, oh, your shop's up for lease. And I was like, no, it's not. They've only just reopened it. It's not up for lease. And she said, go and have a look. So I rang up the estate agents pretending to be interested in the retail, and I said, but there's already a shop in there, like an art shop. Oh yes, they'll close as soon as somebody takes the lease on. I said, oh, that's really interesting. Could you send me a brochure, because I'm fascinated. So they sent me a brochure, and there enough, the shop was there, and I phoned head office, and I said to them, oh, it's slightly alarming that we've heard rumours that the business is up for, the building's up for lease. No, that was from prior to the recession. And I said, that's really interesting, because I've got the brochure in my hand, and I'm actually in the shop window, and I've only been working here since February. And it was like, oh, well, yes, okay, it is up for lease. So it's just constant sneaky naughtiness, and so I didn't sign the lease, but I had already set up a business and become VAT registered and everything at that point, and I thought I might as well just set up an actual shop. So then I was walking around town during the very first Old Town party, and the town was heaving, and I thought, this is brilliant. Managed to persuade my wife that it was going to be a gold mine, and she was like, yeah, all right then, you've got a £25,000 personal loan to stock the shop, all of this, found the shop, and then obviously the double dip recession hit and wiped me out totally. So that was quite fun. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster, mainly downhill, I have to say. So yeah, I'm very protective over the bit of the shop that I've got left, because that's the only thing that I've got, because it cost me my marriage, it's cost me my home, my mortgage, my everything. So it has to work in some form. I'm just using a paintbrush, just because I can, really. Paintbrushes are cool because if you wanted to get more subtle clouds and you didn't want to use an eraser look, you can use a paintbrush just to move the pigment. Well, no, I'm just showing you different things. Because you can, depending on the paper you use, you can dilute pastels with water. And what happens with that is if you want to put loads of layers on with pastels, you can only put so many on before they've got nothing to stick to. So what you can do is, if you know you're going to put lots of layers on, so you've got a lot of blends, the first 1 or 2 colours, as you put it on and you blend it, you wet it, and then you let it dry. And it actually turns the pastel into paint and stains the paper. And when it dries, it looks like you've just blended it on. But because the pigment is then infiltrated into the paper, you can put more layers on top. So it's really clever. It's really good. You can, but I mean, it all depends on the surface that you use. I did it once on the gritty sandpapery stuff, and I didn't realise that it was basically just white gloss card underneath. And I went on with my water like that, and all the grit and all the colour came off, and I was just left with shiny bands of gloss card. So don't do that. But normal paper is fine.
Spray it with fixative, you can put another layer on.
You can. But I like it with a paintbrush because you turn it into paint. So if you like more of a painty thing, it's
Spishy splashy stuff.
yeah, splishy splashy is good. I've never used alcohol with it. Tim Fisher, yeah. I mean, Tim's brill. He doesn't seem to do a lot of pastels now. He seems to do a lot more watercolour and pen. He did, yeah. I think I had him twice. Did I have him twice? Or at least once. I had Angela Gorn twice, didn't I? Because they're very expensive to have other tutors in. I think we used to look at about £250 tutor fees for the day.
Now you can double that, can't you?
Plus art materials. And when you can only get so many people in a class, when often it's stuff that I could actually probably do myself. It's a shame, really, because it's just not doable.
Instead of a brush, could you use those paper things, you know?
Tortillon.
That's I can think what they were.
Tortillon. You could, or cotton buds. Or a smudgy's next.
Cotton buds with me. I have cotton buds with me.
Cotton buds are really interesting, because if you smudge a thing with your finger, you've got control, but there's a softness to it. When you smudge with a cotton bud, it's harder, so it can sometimes take off the colour, so you want to be quite careful with a cotton bud. If you've never used one before, be a bit careful with it. And don't clean your ears after you've done it with pastels.
Cleaning them anyway with them.
It's nice.
Nothing smaller than your elbow. That's what they say.
I can't buy cotton buds that big. They don't sell them. How'd you get your elbow in your ear?
That's the idea.
No, we can't be doing that. You see, I don't want to do too much with the water. I want to keep it quite sparkly. This is almost as if it's like the Barbie movie that's out, isn't it?
Barry,
This is all pink.
just pick that up so that we can see the difference of what you're doing to how it's picking up the
Yes,
colours
because
on
it's more vibrant. Mine, I am actually quite subtle on here, but look. Yeah.
the distortion of the camera is just stunning.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Looks quite.
So that's, yeah.
Thank you.
It's amazing the difference it makes, to be honest. So,
It looks almost ultramarine at the top.
I know.
And your purple.
And that, I mean, that's like a really dusky purple that I put on, and with the black, it's a duller version. So it is bizarre how it works. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this purple on here. This is going to be wet sand. And then we want a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white.
It's interesting to see what it looks like when if you remove the original picture.
Oh yes, because that will.
That may change.
Yeah, it's mad. And then if I put white down, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
You wouldn't believe that, which is why in the classroom my board underneath is whitish. I mean, it's dirty, I have to paint it every month. But having the white, it isolates the colour more and makes it more true to life. Look at that, and the more it goes nearer to the white, and then when it's just on the brown, and then when it's got the colour next to it, it's crazy how the camera.
All to do with the auto white balance, isn't it?
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. So I'm going to grab this and just drag it down. Drag it down always makes reflection look more reflective. And I don't know why, because water runs that way, but for reflection that works. So we can kind of come in with the what's it things. Seems to be a bit of pink there. Let's lighten that. Make it feel a bit reflective. Technically, you see, where you've got these sort of foamy bits from the trails of the previous wave, they're slightly raised, so there should be a little bit of dark right underneath each one, and you can do that with a little bit of putty rubber. When you do it with a putty eraser, you might only get so far before that gets clogged up, and then you have to. Can you see the difference that makes? Just that slightly darker line erased underneath. I'll do it under this one so you can see again. So I pinch the eraser to make a little anvil shape. And it just leaves it so it sits on the top, so it looks like it's three-dimensional. It's good control for a razor as well, if you've never. So these erasers are brilliant because they last forever, and the way you can tell when they've had it is when they get really sticky. You need to have some stick, but sometimes they'll go into a gloop.
Yes, when I use them for charcoal at the moment, it's going into glue.
So what I tend to do is I use it for pencil, and then once it's past its best for pencil, I'll use it for pastel, and then it has to go in the bin. Somebody on Instagram or TikTok or something had heard that you could clean your bear in mind a putty eraser basically is about £1.89, so it's not a lot of money. So why she was trying to save money, so she put it in boiling water, and it's just putty, and it so she put it in a sink and tried to swirl it around, and as she lifted it up, it just turned into this gloop. And she's like, oh, that didn't work then. But never mind. Never mind. I think I might be done.
Paddleboard?
No, he's gone. He's took me that long. He's already he's further up the coast. If I was, the problem is, even with a pencil, he's too fine. You know, he is too fine. You could add a seagull if you wanted, but don't want. A whale's tail, just pushing up. Or you could have like a steamboat or something. Now, you see here with the purple stuff, if I want to soften this one, I can just extend it a little into the pink, or I could even pick up a bit of pink with a brush and pop some of the colour back on. But there's a lot of options you can do with brushes. I like it. I'm just wishing I had a white pastel pencil just to whiten the edge of the sun up. Nah.
Just on my desk. No. All right. Just leave it.
I like to set myself a target to try and do everything with. It's basically I've just been stingy, and I hadn't gone right up to the edge, so I got a bit of a black black line around it. That's better.
Do you, if you lose the sharp edge on the, reinstate it with sandpaper?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, what I often do is I try that when I'm
Yeah.
scribbling on my paper,
Scribbling on.
that'll give me a sharp edge again.
Right.
So I'll go like that, and then I'll flip it over, and then I'll go like that, and then I'll flip it over. So it keeps, because if you keep using the same edge,
Yeah.
you're going to wear it away. But if you roll it, you'll get a slightly sharper edge. Now you can see my fingerprints all on here. I don't have to sign it now. There we go, that'll do. So next week, oh, it's pencil, and we're doing Runswick Bay Beach. I don't know what that is. It's just, it must be something that, I think we might have done it in a watercolour. Let's see if I can find the picture. No, normally I've never been there. But I just thought it makes a change from Barmouth. Wait for week 5. We did it, I think we did it in watercolour. Whitby.
Whitby. Oh. Bit coastally.
So it's kind of, oh,
Oh, wow.
That's nice.
so we're going to do that in pencil. I think we did it with buildings to the left. So there we go. Now it's your turn. So you can get in a nice mess with it. Obviously, I've got black paper if you need it. But let me hold it up so you can... It looks totally different. Yeah, I know. And it will go a bit more subtle when I put the fixative on it. Steers. 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 Like you say stairs in Geordie, staids apparently. And I didn't believe her, but we had to Google it and we got somebody pronouncing it and they call it steers. So the steers, staids. I still prefer staids. Steers. Steers. I'm going to steers.
Funny bunch up there.
Huh? It is in Yorkshire. But they call it steers. I don't know why, but it's going to be handy because I'm doing art history lecture on the Steers School. But there we go. So, over to you. Have fun. I will photograph this in a sec before I put fixative on it and then bring it round.
Fix it to the other end of the room, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to set you off.
Don't set me off.
How's it